Welcome everyone. As Hannah just said, my name is Imogen. I'm the administrator for the fund. So I'm just going to run through a bit of a presentation about what the fund is for, who it's for. Have I got a clicker on here? Yeah, awesome. And I've got some tips for applications at the end as well. So what is Tū Manawa? So it's a Sport New Zealand fund across the whole country. It's 68 million over 4 years. And that's proportioned out across the country based on the population of the regions. So we're getting just over $700,000 a year, which is a good amount of money. I'm new to the role, so I wasn't part of Kiwi Sport beforehand, but I understand it's a lot more than Kiwi Sport used to be, which is great. So it is a new Sport New Zealand fund. So it isn't Kiwi Sport, it's an entirely new one, which is very important to remember. And this has been informed by a review that looked at Kiwi Sport and how that could be used. So it's managed locally by the different regions, so people apply to a different region depending on where they are based, and we look at it and get funding out to our areas. So, who is it for? So the target area for this is young people, so it's the Tamariki and Rangatahi, so ages 5 to 18, and in this first year specifically, it's girls and young women up to 24 as well. So we've got 19 to 24-year-old women included for this year only. And also a priority group of that is disabled children and young people, people from low socioeconomic backgrounds also fall under that. So young people who would otherwise miss out on sporting activities. We really want to try and engage as much of the population as possible. So I've highlighted a couple of bits on here as how it is different from Kiwi Sport. So Kiwi Sport was sport. This is also including play and active rec, as well as sport, which is great. So it gives us lots more organisations that we can work with. So yeah, more evenly distributed between Tamariki and Rangatahi. We have a target from Sport New Zealand to be roughly 50-50 to make sure the different age groups are getting the money that they need there. And the next highlighted point, each programme project to meet a clearly identified need. So we can't have people just saying, this is what we want to run, can we have some money for it? It's, what is the need in the community that is there that you're going to meet with having this funding to run your programme. And it's a much stronger focus on innovative ways. So new programmes, new ideas, show us that you've spoken to the community, you want to try something new, that's fantastic. So who can apply? So this is on our website, this little diagram here, so you can go through to see whether you apply. As you will hear, I'd imagine most of you probably would. So you've got to be a legal entity, otherwise you're not eligible. The primary purpose of the organisation, so these are lots of ors in this middle bit, so is your primary purpose to provide play, active rec or sport? Is it an important or mandated part of your organisation? Do you present it in a kaupapa Māori context? And can you demonstrate a relationship and impact of working with our priority groups? So even if you're not normally involved in sport, active rec or play, but you work with those young people in that area and you want to try something new with them that falls under one of those categories, you are still eligible, which is cool. And then, is your programme you want to run providing that play, active rec or sport? So, I can't view that screen from this angle very well. So this is a list of the types of organisations who are eligible to apply. Again, this is on our website and this is information from Sport New Zealand. So there's plenty of documents and information on our website where you can view all this information. But basically it's a very wide scope for organisations who can apply as long as you're a legal entity. So what can be funded? So these are the questions we get asked all of the time, and there are obviously grey areas around these as well, which we've come across. So programme or project delivery, so venue or equipment hire, transport to events, fine, equipment is fine, officials, delivery of staff wages, new or existing products, and innovative and creative projects. So around all of those areas, there are grey areas. Does this fall under this category? So we always say that if you're unsure, you can pop it in an application anyway. It will be considered. There's just no guarantee that we will 100% fund your application or any applications at all, but those are the key things. The key importance really is that it has to be part of that project or program. So we couldn't receive an application just for some new equipment. What is the purpose of that? So what is the program you want to run? What are the barriers to participation for the people who want to be part of that program? And why do they need that equipment to be on that? So what can't be funded? So retrospective programs, so that means, I ran a program last year, it cost X amount, please can I have some funding to cover it? We can't do that. Multi-year programs, so at the moment we can only fund up to 12 months of program length. Costs associated with professional athletes, professional sports teams, representative teams, so we can't fund people going into that elite sport area. This is an activation fund. It's about getting more kids involved and breaking down those barriers to get them participating in sport active rec or play. So capital costs, we can't build you a new playground, can't build you a new skate park, and facility development, we can't build a new sports hall for you, things like that. Also our money would disappear very quickly if we did any of them, that's why that's not included. So ongoing costs, so building rent, power, just general costs you have associated with your organisation, we can't fund. It has to be specifically linked to the programme that you want to get the funding for. So again, that's like the next one, wages or annual salaries for staff who aren't involved in that project. And also medals, prizes, giveaways and spot prizes, we can't include those either. And organisations who already receive sport and third partnership investment. So these are my little application tips at the end, because we've had a few applications coming in, so I can kind of see the common mistakes people are making, and then we can have some questions. So number one, make sure that your application highlights how it is demand-led. So what is the need in the community that your program is going to meet that demand? And who have you spoken to design that program? Please don't tell us that you want more participants. That's the key thing that we seem to get in a lot of applications. We want more participation in our sport. Well, do more people want to participate in your sport? So we need to hear from existing participants if you want to try a new program, or if you work for a school, what do your school kids want to do? Sit down with them, talk to them and say, if you could have school sports looking like anything you wanted it to, what would it look like? What sports would be played? And yes, that could be a whole new big piece of work, and is there the time for that? But that's where, like we were talking about this morning, that's where sport needs to make that shift and go to, is what do the young people want? And two, it's not Kiwi sport, so there are definitely different criteria and different requirements. So have a read of the community guidelines that are on the website, and then you can really understand the purpose of the fund in more detail. And also we love it if you want to talk to us in advance of submitting your application, so we can really work with you on getting a good application in, and maybe touching different areas that your organisation could work with, that the fund would be able to fund. Okay, so if anybody has any questions for me, I will be interrogated on how to get good applications in if you'd like to. And I also should highlight the process that we have. So we have a fast fund, which is under 10,000, and large fund, which is over 10,000, and they are delivered by a panel. So just to highlight, it's not me who is deciding who gets funding. So we have a fast fund panel, it's internal, and an external panel for our large fund applications. So we're about to do our first large fund round coming up. And just to let everybody know, we are also oversubscribed with the amount of money that people are requesting. So try and get some really good applications in.
What are examples of successful applicant programs, etc.?
Are we allowed to give details on? Yeah?
Generic ones.
I'm not sure.
Because we can read into what we've seen here, but
Yeah.
if you were to say what was something that people have looked at.
Successful one. So we've got ones, especially ones where people hit their priority groups. So if it's clearly Papa Māori, if it's clearly targeting disabled participants, or for example, providers that want to specifically go into low socioeconomic areas or the low decile schools. Those are definitely looked upon more favourably, and they're probably getting the higher success rates at the moment. So it's working with those priority groups because we are so oversubscribed with people wanting the funding, and those are the priority areas. Those are definitely the ones that are getting the more success rate at the moment.
What's the turnaround time for the fast fund? So say you're at 10K and you apply here with weeks or months, what are we talking?
So from whenever the closing deadline date is, we're about to put some new dates up on the website for the rest of the year. It's by the end of the following month, potentially within a few weeks. So we basically get the panel together, and then we can let you know whether you've got the money, and then you should have the money by the end of that month. So you'll be let know in advance at the end of the month.
So,
yes.
Just trying to clarify that in my head. This is for play and recreation.
As well as sport, yeah.
Not necessarily a particular sport.
No.
So you could fund a coordinator for children's physical activities.
Yeah. Did you have specific activities in mind?
Oh, I live in a small town, so
Oh, yeah.
we have like 150 to 200 kids in primary age group, probably another 200 if they're in college, but there'd be no formal sporting activities.
Yeah.
So to get them active.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be sport. It's definitely active rec and play. Also, play applications are very welcome. We don't have many of them coming in at the moment, so they would also definitely have some priority given to them at the moment. Yeah, so it definitely is not just sport, this fund, it's active rec and play as well.
What are the closing dates for the two funds?
We're just in the process of looking at those closing dates moving forward. So we've got our first large fund is closing tomorrow, I believe. And we've had a couple of rounds of the fast fund, and we're thinking that the next fast fund is probably going to close at the end of November. And there's likely to be 3 rounds in total of the large fund in this year, because it was kind of a shorter year. But don't hold me to those yet, because just look at the website and they'll be changed. They'll be updated next week, hopefully.
I'm struggling a little bit about when they're here to get the funding approved, that is demand-led.
Yeah.
For us, we want to provide sports for our kids. So you want us to ask them if they really want, but maybe their answer is just, they want to play games like online games or computer games. That's normally what they would answer.
What organisation are you with?
A school.
A school.
Yes. So, what's the requirement of how many of the population that would say, I want this, and then you will approve it? Or if there's just like limited numbers of people, but for us, we want to provide sports, we want to provide active recreation. That's what we want.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the success for balance?
Does it need to be a new need?
No.
Or an existing need? Yeah.
No, you can do innovation or business as usual, but we do the application would still need to show that the business as usual is desired by the children, I guess. So if you're in a school, it could be sitting down with children and saying, you know, maybe of this whole list of sports, which ones would you like to try? Are there sports on this list that you haven't previously considered or previously done? And you know, you might be surprised by the results that come in, and then you can work with external providers or just get some different equipment in that really give those kids a taster of new sports that they might not otherwise have had. So it's those types of conversations. It's just speaking to the children in your school and finding out what they want to do. Or do you have kids coming and saying, hey, I'd love to be able to play tennis, we don't currently do tennis at the school. Is there some way that we can make that happen? So
yeah, I'd say survey them, don't include, you can do esports or e-games.
Yeah.
You know, put in your sporting activity you want to
It's
offer.
a bit difficult sometimes because I feel like some of the kids, whatever you do, they just don't respond. like even if it's an email, or even if it's like you want them to come to a classroom, or hey, everyone come here, we're gonna talk about things, and then they don't show up. Like even team meetings, trainings or whatever that is, it's a struggle to get them together. Yeah.
Yeah, well maybe you can speak to me afterwards and we can partner you up with someone in Sport Manawatū that can maybe help you have those conversations with the kids. Cool.
Does this was a struggle, just, can you go back to the lead one? I'm just trying to find it at the moment, so, the
Which one?
Māori, no socio.
This one?
So,
No, one up.
maybe the next, next one. So it's just where you had, kaupapa Māori?
I think that was on.
Oh, that's the
Difficult.
sequence is, yeah.
Yeah,
That one?
Nah,
so identifying kaupapa Māori, that's really broad. So like,
Yeah.
I work in a Māori nationally. Kaupapa Māori to some people is different to others. So kaupapa Māori to some is being able to instruct the program to them. Kaupapa Māori to some is Māori participating in something. Kaupapa Māori to others is maurākau kia rahi. So when you see that, it's like, oh yeah, sweet. I've got people in our facility that can facilitate it to them, especially when they're low socio-economic, are predominantly from Tū Manawa Active Aotearoa. So that's a need,
Yeah.
but it's also a requirement. But so to me, if I facilitate a cricket program for cricket and focus it on tāko mana tamariki, Tararua, whatever, would the panel see that as a kaupapa Māori? Or would they see it as the need's not there? That's I'm just trying to.
I might deflect that question to you, Brad.
I mean, I'm thinking of the panel. I'm on panels as well,
Yeah.
and education panels, and I'm trying to think. So, did the panel understand kaupapa Māori?
Yeah.
Because there's masters out there and thesis on it. So you open up a big kaupapa there.
Yeah, what I suppose to alleviate that, what we're trying not to do is define how Māori enough an application is. And when you look at that, it's like, well, heck, is that what we're trying to assess? So we're fortunate that we have our CE as part of the smaller panel. And I guess part and parcel of the question is making sure that we've got to basically demonstrate from the beginning that it's hitting those first criteria, and that the kaupapa Māori aspect is also driven from Sport NZ. So that's trying to deliver on Te Rehu, which is the Māori participation sport model, and it has its own sort of
Scoring system.
which we've got to align to. So I think that the really important part from an RST perspective is it actually enables us to start developing the relationships or the partnerships. It's the funding stuff is the easy part. It's actually the relationships to try and build and support a system that our kids are going to benefit from.